Well, what an episode of AEW Dynamite that was. We have a ton of things to talk about. Mainly, somebody has gone heel, and somebody has gone back to what, 2019? Or was it 2020? It must have been 2019, because 2020 is when the pandemic kicked off, and everybody's been going nuts about that on social media, but more power to you. Also, hello, my friends. My name is Simon Miller. I'm a bald idiot that makes wrestling content most of these days. I point out here, because I forget otherwise, I'm actually away from Saturday. Content is still going to be going up, but you may be like, Simon, this isn't topical at all, and that's because I'm recording it today. Sound good, awesome, but let's be on point, and let's talk about Dynamite. So let's start with Swerve Strickland. Amazingly, there is somewhat of a conversation about this online. I saw somebody say, maybe he hasn't turned heel. I don't think it was a fully fledged heel turn. I was like, are we watching the same show? Not only did he knee Aubrey Edwards in the face, well, no, he did. It was his fault. Kenny Omega did it, but you wouldn't put the blame on Kenny Omega. You put the blame on Swerve. He also threw Kenny Omega into Tina the Turnbuckle, who'd been exposed, and he cheated. And when he was done, he hanged Kenny Omega off the top rope with a chain, and he vertebrated him through Alan the announce table. Now, listen, I'm sure some people may be on Swerve Strickland's side. He has had a rough old ride of it the last 6 weeks or so, because he wanted to be the world champion, and he wasn't able to get there, and he blamed Kenny Omega. I think it's a heel turn, right? If it's not a heel turn, I think it's been incredibly oddly pitched. I would love to know what the idea was going to be, but I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. I mean, for one, the Kenny Omega Swerve Strickland match quite clearly was going to happen at AEW Revolution. I now think Kenny Omega is going to Japan to fulfill some other bookings, and good for that guy. So we did it on free television. I'm never going to moan about a wrestling match being on free TV. Why would you want to pay more money for things, especially in this economy, as we throw in extra stuff for no reason whatsoever? But it really was of that quality. They're just so damn good. They're so talented. I really didn't know who was going to win. I thought it was awesome that we did have a twist in the tail. We did have a little bit of a curveball at the end there. Because I kind of felt like Swerve Strickland needed something. Not because he was in no man's land, but just because, I don't know, I couldn't see Kenny Omega going heel at this time of his career. Whereas Swerve Strickland, as I've talked about 1,000 times before, is like a chameleon. You put him in any single match type and he would just sort of figure it out in one way or another. So even though he is going to go heel here, I'm sure he can still bring elements of his normal character, for lack of a better term, into it. He's just awesome. And I think given where the world or the main event scene is at the moment with that world championship, you probably need another heel, because obviously Kenny Omega's a face, MJF is a heel, Andrade is a heel, Hangman is a face, and now Swerve Strickland getting in that case. It's going to be a while, I would presume, until Swerve goes after the title again. So I think this just sort of puts him in a very interesting position. That's all wrestling needs to be. It just needs to be intriguing to the point you do want to tune in. But the match was awesome. I'm not going to go and try and sort of tell you it beat by beat, because I wouldn't be able to do it justice anyway. But they really are high quality wrestlers. And when I watch a main event like this once again on Dynamite, I struggle to see anyone who wouldn't think that AEW isn't a benefit to pro wrestling. You can argue about statistics and numbers and all of that till the cows come home. I like to talk about entertainment juice. And my entertainment juice was going all over the place, which is a horrendous thing to say. And yes, when we did get the big, oh my gosh, what are you doing, Swerve? And he did put Aubrey Edwards into Kenny Omega's knee once again. I just thought it was great. And we kind of wrote Kenny off for a couple of weeks too, right? Because a vertebraker is a move you don't see that often, because it is quite dangerous. So to do it through a table, and it did look absolutely horrific. I was like, oh my gosh, poor Kenny Omega just got totally murked. But I can't, what does Swerve do next week? Like, he'll cut his big promo, at least I hope. When you get a turn, I always want some people to say some words into a microphone. I wouldn't necessarily say he needs justification, because he kind of did that last week. And also, the whole show was bookended with some old school promos at the start of Dynamite, with Swerve saying, I need this. And once he had murdered Kenny Omega, how did he finish it? By saying, I need this. So it was all there, right? It really, really was all there, and I had a great time watching it. And now I'm massively intrigued when Kenny Omega comes back. Do we do that match again? Is there going to be a big stipulation? Again, it will tie into the world title match eventually that we'll talk about in just 1 second. But it was really good. If you have 25 minutes today, I would absolutely suggest that you do watch it. It was just two people reminding you what pro wrestling can be outside of a WWE world. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's a disparaging way. I love what WWE does, but it's so cool to get this kind of different feel on a major television program in the main event. So really, really good stuff. I think Kenny Omega's obviously going to have to get his revenge, and depending on what does happen between MJF and Hangman, does Kenny then go after the belt? Do we get Swerve Strickland as the champion, taking on Kenny Omega later in the year, and we do a change there? I do not know, but there are plenty of options, which again is what you want. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. So after MJF and Hangman had basically told the other one how much they hate each other, and it was a very good promo segment, especially if you lent into that sort of thinking, Hangman thought there should be a stipulation to this match, because again, if we do have so much hate in our bodies, we should probably push this all the way. The fans chanted Texas Deathmatch. So again, they knew where he was hinting. MJF was like, no, we're doing a normal match here. That's not my style. When Hangman Adam Page, like I say, managed to embody Cody Rhodes and said, listen, if you agree to my stipulation, I will agree to this. If I do not beat you, I will never challenge for that world title again as long as I live. So there's one caveat. He could die and come back to life, and that would mean he's allowed to go after it as zombie Hangman, and he is a cowboy. Undead Nightmare is looking right at us. But he also said, I give you my word. So I think it's all going to depend what is in the contract, because you could have Hangman Adam Page easily go heel here by saying, yeah, I gave you my word, but I'm breaking my word because that world title means more to me. If it's in the actual deal, that sort of changes the story a little bit. But I did not see that coming. And once again, I think I go back to what I just talked about. It's intriguing, and I don't think Tony Khan or AEW would be doing this unless they had sat down and really thought about it, because, of course, if anyone remembers the reaction to Cody doing it, it would be those guys. Maybe there was an end point to what Cody was doing, but, of course, he left AEW, so now they're rehashing that story. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because, again, as long as my week-to-week TV is really, really good, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe it, I don't think anything should be off the table. But I certainly was surprised, because in Hangman's current guise, he's a goody two-shoes babyface. He's I'll do whatever you tell me in the right way. So for him to break a stipulation is certainly crossing that line, but maybe that is the plan. But also, I don't think that MJF should lose. I don't think it's anywhere near early enough for MJF to drop that title. I think he's doing very, very well with it. And again, he was great here. So is someone going to come out and Swerve Strickland maybe screw over Hangman Adam Page? So you go back to that feud, especially because now Swerve has sort of also crossed that line. At the same time, is it too early to go back to that? I would argue, yes. Does that become a number one contender thing? Well, it can't, because Hangman has now promised that he's never going to fight for that championship again if he gets defeated. So I don't know, but I think it's awesome that we can have this conversation. Like, I find it so interesting about what AEW has planned, because, I mean, by the end of the year, if everything goes well, you would imagine that Kenny Omega could be a world champion, Swerve Strickland could be a world champion, MJF, Hangman Adam Page, Andrade is still talking about it, Brody King is talking about it. We're getting this Will Ospreay return video, so he could be put in there as well. There's probably some other guys I'm not even thinking about. John Moxley, you could do it with Okada, you could do it with Takeshita, you could do it with Kyle Fletcher. And again, you'll be shouting, Simon, you forgot this guy, which I absolutely have. So that's like 12, 13 guys that could potentially be a world champion. So maybe you can take Hangman Adam Page out of it. Because I think when Cody did it, one of the reasons it was a massive issue is because people wanted to see Cody as AEW champion. We hadn't established sort of a lot of guys at that main event level. You had Chris Jericho, you had Kenny Omega, absolutely had Moxley. But like, even then, I'm not saying this in a bad way, he got himself there, and today I think he's awesome. MJF couldn't have become world champion in 2019. It was way too early. 5-6 years later, it's all good. So to take Cody Rhodes out of that sphere, especially some of the matches that we then lost, it was like, oh. Even more so, I believe that Jericho versus Cody was already booked, kayfabe-wise, and then Cody added in that stipulation. You're like, dude, you've already got the match. Here it made much more sense, because Hangman Adam Page hates, it's almost like he's a Jedi, right? He's going to the dark side. His hate is overcoming him, but he hates MJF so much, and he wants to get him in Texas Deathmatch where he can do whatever he wants to him, that he will even put that on the line, because in his head, I can be MJF, especially in my speciality bout, whereas MJF is probably like, you do know I'm a sick son of a bitch, and if you also take the gloves off, I can do that stuff to you too, and wouldn't it be wonderful to make sure you never fight for this Triple B again, because I hate you, and I'll be taking away that thing that defines you, that makes you who you are. So, really good. And when Hangman said, you're just me, Maxwell, like, I need the adoration of these fans, as do you. The only difference is I admit it and you hide behind your cowardice. It was just awesome stuff. And again, gun to my head, would I make a prediction here? Absolutely not, because of the stipulation. Now, some people have said, well, it just means that Hangman Page is going to win. I don't think that's the case at all. It does not feel like, because sometimes you get retirement matches or quite quickly we're going to switch the belt. I would be surprised if MJA lost. I think I'd be more surprised even with this if Hangman won. Just unless MJF has got a movie role we don't know about and he needs to take some time off, and that's totally fine. I think if that has happened and we need to call an audible, then coming up with a real full-on stipulation is the right thing to do, because again, as I repeat myself, it increases intrigue. But not in a million years would I have fantasy booked that. I thought AEW would stay way away from that given what we did do with Cody Rhodes, but there has to be something here. And listen, it may vanish next week. Nothing was sort of signed on the dotted line, so maybe they were just throwing it out there to see how the fans react. I don't mind that either. Now, of course, I would rather they had a plan, they stuck to it, and we just react to it as we go week by week. But if they were a bit unsure, I don't think there's a problem with doing a litmus test. And also, I've just made this up in my head, so we certainly shouldn't take it as read. But I thought those two segments especially stood out in a very strong episode of Dynamite, and I want to see what's going to happen. And as long as you've got me in that point, and I think this all has jeopardy. Like, if Kenny Omega and Swerve met again, I wouldn't be able to bet on a certain winner. And because of what we've done here, it's absolutely the same with Maxwell and Adam, as I use their first names like I know them. Of course, I do not. not. Really good, though, and really fascinating. I'd love to know what you think about all this. Just put one word, or you can give me more than that, of course. But in terms of Hangman versus MJF, who wins? Just write MJF, or write, do a picture of a cow, right? Do a cow emoji, because then it'll be funny, because some people just go on videos and they read comments. If they just see cow emoji, cow emoji, cow emoji, they'll have no idea what's going on. Otherwise, it was a very match-heavy episode of Dynamite, but I guess you did have that Hangman thing right smack in the middle of it. Women's four-way was awesome. You know my thought of all of this. I would always much rather there was some sort of promo or some sort of planting of seeds the week before, just because then you can get more into it. But at the same time, Mina Shirakawa versus Willow versus Megan Bayne versus Marina Shafir, never going to be bad, right? And of course, Marina Shafir got took out with a table, and Megan Bayne she got crushed with that crazy move for the top rope. Oh my gosh, I thought she was dead. It was essentially Willow Nightingale doing a German suplex, I suppose, or a suplex variant of that. And she was going to throw Megan Bayne, who then tried to do the flip. It looked like she landed on her neck. Now, sometimes with long hair, it can be an illusion, but it was terrifying. Anyway, Mina runs in, goes to the figure four, and Willow uses the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll up 1, 2, 3. Hinted, I kind of could see a three-way maybe between Marina, Megan, and Willow, because of course at first Megan and Marina were still friends and they turned on each other. I think Megan Bayne could eventually win that, and then maybe the Babes of Wrath also lose their world tag team titles, or you could do it the other way around as well. But it was a good fun match, right? Same with Orange Cassidy and Ishii taking on Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd. That's mostly there because we're going to do Gabe Kidd versus Darby Allin at Revolution. Can you imagine what that stipulation is going to be, given we've had kidnap and setting each other on fire and body bags? I'm terrified. I mean, the worrying thing about that is that Ishii seemed to pull his hamstring or do something to his leg. He definitely went down, but because he's such a monster, he just carried on fighting, which is totally crazy. But yeah, once Darby Allin had kidnapped Gabe Kidd, which is what happened, all of a sudden Orange Punch, Brainbuster 1 through 3. I would assume that Roderick Strong is back soon, and we're doing Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong at the pay-per-view. So all of this was good, and I think it's really important that we had that TBS title defended, because Willow Nightingale is a double champion. Absolutely, the focus has been on the women's tag team champions, so now we've just balanced it out a little bit, and I think you do want to do that. I think it's massively important, but they're all of such a high level, and because I think that pay-per-view is in the distance, anyone, and I mean this in a positive way, could sit down there and go, well, I think we're going to do this, and I think we're going to do that, and sometimes you want that. Not everything has to be as surprising as Swerve Strickland going heel, like I do say. And again, he's not going to be on the pay-per-view, so he'll need a big promo next week as well. But it was all just so watchable. And of course, we also got Jon Moxley versus Mark Davis. Now, really, the overriding thing there is it's still the Death Riders taking on the Don Callis family. And by the end of the match, it was really good. They smacked each other. Mark Davis at one point punched the ring post for real. I think he cut his hand, and then Moxley was biting it. I mean, talk about flubbed up and disgusting. But we're getting Takeshita versus Moxley at Revolution. No time limit, because of course they drew at the weekend. I would say that Takeshita could have won that. And I said that on Ups to Downs. What culture? Check out my freelance review. But then I was like, well, no, because Okada on this show found Don Callis. He's like, I'm here, I'm a champion, where's Takeshita? I think they're going to screw him, and I think that's when Takeshita is going to leave the Don Callis family, and then he can go right into his feud with Okada. That's fine, and Jon Moxley can go off and do something else. I actually think that does make sense. I mean, the Death Riders Don Callis family program is a bit weird. It kind of just continues on, and it kind of goes in reverse a little bit. And Josh Alexander challenged Claudio Castagnoli for Collision, which will be awesome. But you also had the whole Wheeler Yuta shaving his head over the weekend, and he was here, and he was covering up with a hoodie. But again, maybe this is just me. I thought we could have teased it more that somebody was going to reveal it. He almost became an afterthought, and I thought that was a little bit disappointing, as was the fact that Tekla wasn't on this show at all. I think if you win a world championship, you should always have a big promo after the fact. Even, I'm not talking about Tekla here in general, you're not a good promo guy, I think you should just have to do it, or get a manager if that's the case. There should be pre-planning to it. The good news, however, is that Thunder Rosa is back. She was on TV. She was talking to Chris Statlander, who's off for a couple of weeks. She's not medically cleared. And Chris was like, beware of Tekla. And Thunder was like, oh man, I'm going to whip Tekla's ass. Thunder Rosa has been through it the last year or so getting back on television and getting a spot like that I thought was awesome. And it just sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, but buffers up that women's division even more, which right now must be in the best place it's ever been in AEW. They have all these awesome people, as that TBS 4-way proved. We have the Women's World Championship stuff that more teams can be thrown into, the Iconics or the Inspiration, whatever they're called. They signed at the weekend. I do not understand it. People go, oh, they're not good enough to wrestle for AEW. There's more to wrestling than just wrestling. And I understand that AEW is the wrestling company, but you can't just give that to me over and over again. It's like Kevin Knight versus, who the fuck did Kevin Knight take on? The Beast Mortis. That wasn't that long, but that's what I was like, oh man, there's an adrenaline shot on the arm. It was like the Young Bucks in the FTR segment. It wasn't that long, but that just keeps your energy levels up here. Sometimes I want to laugh. Sometimes I want to smile. Sometimes I want a hard-hitting matchup. But you absolutely could have had a little bit of relief on this show, and nobody would have minded, I do not think. You just have to book it that way. Like Stokely Hathaway sitting there ranting and raving when the Young Bucks somehow Sam Fisher, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood, and he kept on talking. Then he turns around, bam. And we're doing that match at the pay-per-view as well. At the moment, that pay-per-view has so much what the flub are we going to do? Again, Hangman versus MJF, no idea what we're going to do. Young Bucks versus FTR, I had no idea what we're going to do. There are so many options and directions that you could choose to go in, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I mean, is it going to be Tekla versus Thunder Rosa? That one's a bit more cut and dry. I can't see Thunder Rosa winning. But again, it's just a victory for her for being back on the show. Coming back from injuries, especially her ones, are so damn hard. So there was a lot to like about all of this. And even sort of the random matches like that tag team match with the conglomeration. Once again, we're just winking and nodding saying, oh, we're going to the pay-per-view here because Darby Allin didn't want to get kidnapped, which is totally fair. I checked and I looked online last time I did have a look. Nobody actually did want to be kidnapped. But yeah, I do think AEW and Dynamite especially has found some momentum recently. I mean, coming off the Collision show, which was Grand Slam, which was a bigger event than usual because they were in Australia, meant they did have a lot of energy they were able to sort of carry across, and I thought that it was here. I don't even mind that Carl Fletcher wasn't on it, because you do want to say some stuff for Collision. Like, everyone goes, oh man, I can't believe it. There are areas where, sure, like I say, I think Tekla should have been on the show, but as long as Carl Fletcher with the TNT Championship is on Collision, that does make sense. I think you can balance it out here. And the only thing I don't really get is Hook now being in charge of the ops. Like, Shibata's back in Japan scouting people, Hook's going to scout people here, so they are going to reintroduce people to it, which I think is smart. I think if we can come up with a good idea, that will work really well. But I still think it's weird that Hook and Hangman never really draw a line under their feud, which, you know, Hook was the reason why Hangman lost that championship. I just don't think we do enough with Hook. And some people say, well, he hasn't changed at all. But sometimes it feels like he's not in an environment where he can do. It's just a little bit strange, and I can't put my finger on it. But again, it only ever takes a couple of weeks to get something going. And we had the Demand have a knife stuck into their locker room. I'd presume that's something to do with Jack Perry and Luchasaurus, maybe, just because of the things that they were talking about. Although they also did say they want to go after the trios titles, which is awesome, because at the moment Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey and Hangman and Page are quite literally going after different things, although Mike Bailey did support Kevin Knight when he defeated the Beast Mortis. But I like the Demand. I think they found their flow and they found their synergy, whatever the right word would be. Like, they were doing their weird sign here, and they felt like a proper group. I just think they probably need to enter a program for the Trios Championships or something like that. But good episode of Dynamite. Again, massively helped by that main event, which felt like such a big deal. And man, Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers of all time, and Swerve Strickland has become such a star in All Elite Wrestling, which again is why it's awesome we have these two major companies, because it benefits the wrestlers. I think that AEW sold out last night as well. Now people go, it's only 3,000 seats, whatever it was. A sellout is a sellout, and if the next time they go there, they do 3.5, and the next time they go there, they do 4. We're heading in the right direction, and you should want all wrestling companies to be as popular as possible to as many people as possible, because once again, that helps the wrestling business. But really, really enjoyed this. I think we're setting up the pay-per-view very well, and I think that show's going to be nuts. I'm a bit worried it's also going to be 7 hours long. I'd much prefer a mid-length pay-per-view, but it ain't up to me. Now, of course, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Drop me a comment below. And again, just draw a cowboy sign or a cow sign if you think Hangman is going to win. If not, don't do the cow emoji. Of course you can. What's going to happen here? Click the video on the screen to get my thoughts about Monday Night Raw. And we did get deep and dirty into who is the mystery man. I've changed my mind now, so I'll do a different video on a different day. Otherwise, like I say, click all the things down there. And it is patreon.com/Simon316 to support me there. Schoolofmind.com/Simon to get your fitness supplements shipped worldwide. They are the best. Simon316 on all social media. Check out my new Under the Mat YouTube channel, which I will link down there for my ridiculous interviews, which I think are fun. It's Between Two Ferns. I always wanted to do this. I used to do it 10 years ago. I want to try and do it again. What else do? We do Pro Wrestling Tees, TikTok, and Cameo, which I'd also appreciate your support on. Otherwise, my friends, take care. See you soon.